You've probably already seen the title of this video, which means you probably already know how I feel about this subject. So I'm just going to come out and say this. I love Derrick White. I think Derrick White is one of the best role players in the NBA today. I think Derrick White is one of the most valuable role players in the NBA today. What he does for the Celtics at both ends of the floor is amazing. He's putting up career-high numbers across the board. If the Celtics are to win a championship this year, Derrick White is going to be one of the biggest reasons why. But I'm sorry, that doesn't make him an all-star. We do a couple of weird things when it comes to the all-star discussion. One is we'll just throw out a name and say, well, he has to be an all-star, without talking about, okay, well, who should he replace in the hypothetical all-star lineup? So in the case of Derrick White, after last night's game against the Lakers, everyone's saying he has to be an all-star. But if you look at the state of the Eastern Conference guards, there's a lot of names that he's going to have a hard time passing up. You got Damian Lillard, Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson. Hell, you could even throw in Trae Young and Jaylen Brown. So it's just not as simple as saying, oh, he's an all-star. And then I think the bigger issue that we have when it comes to all-star voting is I think we try to reward winning a bit too much. Yes, obviously you want to reward guys who are putting up numbers in a way that actually matters, right? We don't want to just reward guys who are putting up empty stats, empty calorie stuff on teams that aren't really doing much. But I do think we sometimes sort of miss the point of what it means to be an all-star. An all-star is about you. It's about the individual and your individual greatness. And so again, I want to say Derrick White has been great, but he's been great in a very limited role. Where, for example, if you were to swap him with a Donovan Mitchell, who I think the perception of him has sort of fallen a bit because he's just sort of stagnated in what he does, Derrick White wouldn't look as good as the leading man on the Cavaliers. And that's not an insult to Derrick White, it's just a reality. So we get so infatuated with guys thriving in their roles that we sort of forget that one of the reasons why they're able to thrive is because they're playing in a limited role. And again, that's not meant to discredit them. It's just that when we're talking about all-stars, part of it should be about you as the individual and how high you can reach in terms of greatness. We always do this talk about how the best team in the league needs to have an honorary all-star to reward their winning, where if they have one, then they need two because they're the best team in the league. Or if they have two, then they need three. Last year, there was a lot of talk about Aaron Gordon being an all-star. And again, it's sort of a similar thing to White. It's you can thrive in your role. That doesn't make you one of the 24 best players in the NBA this year. It might make you one of the 24 most valuable, but again, value and overall ability, that's very role dependent. Credit to Derrick White for thriving in his role, thriving beyond what anyone ever thought he could. But I think being an all-star should mean more than that. It should be about the leaders of the team. It should be about the engines. It should be about the guys who have all the pressure on them. Again, love Derrick White, but if the Celtics lose a really tough game, he's probably not the one who's going to have to answer for it in the media. It's a problem I see a lot in NBA media where something that happens always has to mean everything. So we can't just say, hey, Derrick White has become one of the best role players in the NBA, this insanely valuable piece to a championship contender. That's not enough. We have to make it mean something. We have to say, oh, he should be an all-star. Now look, if you want to say, hey, if the Celtics wind up getting two all-stars, Tatum's obviously one of them, who should be the second one? You want to argue Derrick White as the second most valuable Celtic, where in a hypothetical scenario where the Celtics were to get two all-stars, Derrick White should be the second one? I'll listen to that. But the idea that we should just blatantly throw his name into the all-star game because of what he's been doing, I just think lacks the context and the conversation that it needs. And I sort of hate making this point because it makes it sound like I'm devaluing what White is doing. I'm not. Like I said at the top, and like I've said at probably multiple points throughout this video, he is one of the best role players in the NBA today, if not the best. But I think there are levels to what being an all-star should actually mean and what it does really mean. And I think that needs to be considered more when we start talking about who should break through for that first all-star appearance.